Good evening. I call to order the Lake Havasu City Council regular meeting on Tuesday, September 26, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. We'll now have an invocation from Pastor Dean Wiles from Abundant Grace Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by the Cub Scouts Pack 85, led by Cub Master Benjamin Long.
All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, how awesome you are. And God, we just pause for a moment before this meeting just to recognize your goodness, and we ask for your wisdom with all the decisions that are being made. God, I pray for our leadership of this land. Thank you for the United States of America. God, we believe that it's the greatest nation in the world, and we're so thankful to be able to live here. And God, from the White House down to our city council, God, I just pray that you would give them wisdom as they do their responsibilities, their duties. And Lord, I ask that you help us just to continue to put our hope and our trust in you. God, you are the source for us. God, the city council, the president, government is not our source. You are our source. And God, you've chosen us. God, even myself, I'm not a source for anybody. God, I just point people to you are the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus. And so we just continue just to hold on to you. God, thank you that you never leave us and you don't forsake us. God, one thing you will never do is you will never fail us. Lord, we don't understand all your ways. We have lots of questions from time to time, but God, all I can do is trust you, and I judge you faithful and I judge you good. And so thank you for your steadfast love that never ends. Thank you for your mercies that are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. And Lord, we just dedicate this time to you. Have your way. God, I just pray for your blessings over every citizen of this community. Continue to, God, bring blessing to all the businesses. God, even visitors that come in. Let it just be a great place of fun and memories, great memories being made. And so continue to keep your hand of protection over our city, over this land. And God, again, we just thank you for all your blessings, all your provisions. We thank you for your promises. You are awesome. And we just pray these things in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you, and welcome, Cub Master Benjamin Long. Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Scouts here with us this afternoon as well.
Thank you. Good evening. It's been a long time since I've spoken in front of anybody, so just give me a minute. Good evening, fellow Lake Havasu residents and city council members. Thank you for inviting us here tonight to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. My name is Benjamin Long, and I am the Cub Master of Cub Scout Pack 85. I've been part of the community here for several years. My family is honored to call Lake Havasu City our home. Our pack is proudly sponsored by the Kiwanis Club and of Lake Havasu City. We thoroughly enjoy the positive relationship that we have built with them as our charter organization over the last year. Cub Scouts is for boys and for girls, kindergarten through the 5th grade. The Cub Scout program offers skills to our youth, including citizenship, character, personal fitness, and leadership. Pack 85 is small, friendly, and family-oriented, and ready to welcome new members. Visitors and siblings are welcome to at most pack events. We are that are invited to join in our activities. Cub Scouts provide an opportunity to have fun while developing new skills. As an Eagle Scout myself, I know the importance of the excitement and the knowledge this level of scouting can bring to our youth. We recently took our pack fishing, and the joy was on each kid's face as they caught fish, and it was amazing. If it weren't for scouting and the generous donations from our community members, we may not be able to give these kids these experiences. So thank you to every organization and community member who has supported our PAC in any way. This includes the parents, the siblings, family members, and leaders of our Cubs. Our PAC is looking to grow, and several more our PAC is looking to grow and serve more youth in Havasu. If you would like more information about our PAC or some of our events, please email us. It's lhcpac85@gmail.com, or follow us on the social media at Cub Scout PAC 85, Lake Havasu City. We meet most Wednesdays at 6 p.m. at the Lamb of God Church on Inca Drive in Lake Havasu. A big thank you to them as well for graciously hosting us for the last several years. I would like to close this by saying our PAC would really love to be able to give back to our community in the form of service projects or volunteer hours. If our community organization needs assistance with something, please let us know how we can help you. And again, thank you to everyone in the community who helps us run a successful program for the youth. We really do appreciate you all so much. And I would just like to say thanks again to everybody in the community, and it's been a pleasure. And again, if there's anything we can do for you, please let us know.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Long.
Thank you.
And thank you to the PAC for everything you're doing. Actually, I'm going to invite, if you guys can come up to the dais now, members of the council, come join us. Let's take a photo real quick. We love the representation that you've done. Thank you for the character building you're doing for the youth in our community. We appreciate it. We'll join you on the side for a photo. Yeah, just come right up here.
Okay.
Yes.
I want the bigs in the back, littles in the front. Let's go.
You are killing it.
I see some mic busters here in the room. Maybe we'll get you guys an extra patch. So a separate patch, that would be fun. Yes. Try that. Try that sheet.
Yes.
Max, he's learning now.
Go back out.
All right. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll move on to item 4 on our agenda, the roll call. Ms. Williams, if you please call the roll.
Council members Nancy Campbell. Here. Michelle Lynn. Here. Cameron Moses.
Here.
Jenny Koch. Here. Jim Dolan.
I'm here.
Vice Mayor David Lane.
Here.
Mayor Cal Sheehy.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is item 5, the consent agenda. Would any of the council members like to remove any of the items for separate discussion?
Mayor,
Yeah, Councilmember Koch,
motion.
please.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. We have a motion from Councilmember Koch and a second from Vice Mayor Lane. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you. Next item is item 6, correspondence, communications, petitions, announcements, and the city manager report. Item 6.1 is the investment report as of June 30th, 2023. Ms. Olson has provided this in our packet, and it's available on the website and will be filed as such. Moving on to item 6.2 is announced vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. Ms. Williams?
Mayor and City Council, there are several vacancies on Lake Havasu City boards, committees, and commissions. The following is a listing of those vacancies. Airport Advisory Board, 1 alternate pilot member. Board of Adjustment, 2 regular members and 2 alternate members. And the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, 1 student member. Anyone interested can pick up a packet at City Hall. They are also available on the city's website at lhcaz.gov. The deadline to submit applications for consideration of these vacancies is September 30th by 5 p.m. However, we will continue to accept applications for any future vacancies that may come up, and they will be kept on file for 1 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. All right, the next item is item 6.3, our city manager's report. Good evening, Mr. Knudsen.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I'd like to start this evening's report with some bittersweet feelings as we have another retirement to report from our Development Services Department. One of our plans examiners, Carl Criswell, is retiring from Lake Havasu City at the end of this month, and we wish him very well in his future endeavors. Carl was hired in 2017 as a plans examiner trainee and promoted to Plans Examiner 1 the following year. Carl performed several different tasks in the construction industry prior to coming to work for us. However, for his 5 years with us, he primarily enforced our building codes. So thank you, Carl, for your service to Lake Havasu City. The police department attended Elks Lodge 2399 Law and Order Night just last Saturday. Police Chief Sterling presented an Officer of the Year award to Corporal Brent Skanke, and the Elks Lodge presented the Enrique Caminera Award to Detective Richard Castillo. Corporal Brent Skanke, up in the left corner, was acknowledged for his dedication to public service and his commitment to the community. His active shooter training for both officers and city personnel will undoubtedly enhance their safety as well as those that they serve. And in the middle photo, Detective Richard Castillo was recognized for excellence in drug enforcement and community awareness, serving in his assignment in the Special Investigative Unit. And in the top right corner, thank you to the Elks Lodge 2399 as they presented a check for $500 to Chief Sterling to be used for our cadet program. The fire department also attended Elks Lodge 2399 Law and Order Night, and Fire Chief Pete Palafis presented Outstanding Leader Awards to Public Education Specialist Gina Gutierrez and Battalion Chief of EMS Tim Maple. The Outstanding Leadership Award awarded to Gina Gutierrez is in recognition of her exceptional leadership, dedication, and remarkable achievements within the Fire Service Technical Education Program, or the CTE program we have at the high school. We appreciate her devotion to the students and preparing the next generation of first responders for our community. The Outstanding Leadership Award awarded to Battalion Chief of EMS Tim Maple is in recognition of his exceptional leadership, contribution, and efforts in enhancing emergency medical services for our fire department and our community. We appreciate his commitment and vision to improve the delivery of emergency medical care, outcomes for patients, and the well-being of our community. Thank you to both of our chiefs and their teams for their excellent leadership for our community. The Lake Havasu City Fire Department and our Lake Havasu City Parks Department joined forces to inform the public about the risks associated with hiking in the desert, along with navigating the Sarah Park trails and knowing one's location. Crews from both departments hiked specialized equipment through the trail system to install new clearly marked trail signs and kiosks with wayfinding and GPS information. By hiking in this equipment, water and concrete was a grueling task that both departments committed to, making the Sarah Park trail system much safer for our hikers. The information on the signs can be used with very interactive mapping systems to assist hikers. And the area, as stunning and beautiful as it is, can quickly become a life-threatening experience if hikers are not prepared for the heat, the distance, and the amount of water they need to complete their hike. But prior to this, we didn't have there wasn't much signage out there. So now there's warnings in terms of how far you've gone, the different trail systems, and how far away from the parking lot are you. A reminder for those that are hiking, be cautious, bring your cell phone, make sure it's charged, take plenty of water, wear UV protection, whether that's sunglasses, hat, and sunscreen. And be careful during rains, because washes with heavy rainfall can really cause dire situations. The season of fall events is picking up, and the mayor's office is diligently recognizing many charitable organizations and their great work in our community. Just last weekend, on behalf of the mayor's office, Councilmember Michelle Lynn and Nancy Campbell presented a proclamation from Mayor Kalashihi to the You Matter group in honor of Suicide Prevention Month. Thank you to River Scene Magazine for the photo. In the proclamation, the mayor encourages all residents to take the time to inquire as to the well-being of their family, their friends, and neighbors as often as possible to generally convey their appreciation for their existence by any gesture that they seem appropriate. Also, on behalf of Mayor Shi, Jerry Bracamonte joined the Patriot Guard Riders at the VFW to present a military certificate of recognition to United States Army and Army National Guard Specialist Dylan Tennis in honor of his upcoming 4th deployment mission. We thank Dylan for his service and we wish him a safe return home. Also, on behalf of Mayor Shi, Councilmember Campbell presented a proclamation to Havasu Literacy Council in celebration of National Literacy Month. In the proclamation, we encourage all caregivers, parents, and grandparents as primary educators in their families to play an active role in promoting literacy, assisting children in reaching their full potential, and breaking the intergenerational cycle of illiteracy where it exists. And this past Sunday, Mayor Sheehy proclaimed the day Gold Star Mother's Day in Lake Havasu City and presented the proclamation at the annual ceremony. Gold Star mothers are those mothers that lost a child while he or she served in the armed forces. A Gold Star represents a badge of honor they wish they never would have to hold. The ceremony is a symbol of our heartfelt promise that we will never forget the ultimate sacrifice made by their children for our country. And Mayor Shi, you proclaimed the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Lake Havasu City. And finally, one last reminder to attend the opening night for the Echo Group Band of Brothers Arizona Veterans Softball League this Saturday, September 30th. It'll be at 6 p.m. and it'll be at the Sarah Park Ball Fields. Everyone is encouraged to attend to support our local veterans and watch a game between the Band of Brothers California team and the Band of Brothers Arizona team. The Havasu Youth Advisory Council, thanks to their coordination in assistance or in coordination with Jerry Bracamonte, would like to thank all of the sponsors for this event, including Sunland Asphalt, Anderson Toyota, Elks and the Elkettes of 2399, the Military Devil Dogs, Bradley Auto Group, Lynn's Little China, Sarah Springberg with Coldwell Banker Realty, Arizona Auto Spa, Campbell Cove One Stop, Printing Plus, Hangar 24, Bashes, American Legion Auxiliary, the Vietnam Veterans of America, and the Daughters of the American Revolution. Lots of community support for this league and for this game. For more information, you can visit the website at echovets.org. And with that, Mayor, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Knutson. We'll move on to item 7, which is our public hearings. During our public hearings, we will have updates from staff or presentations. We'll open the public hearing where the public will be able to engage with the city council. When the public hearing is open, just make your way to the podium if you want to speak on the item, state your name for the record, and then just address the council directly. You won't be addressing the audience, but the council. There is a light indicator box next to Ms. Williams. Green means you have time, yellow means you have 1 minute remaining, and red means that your time is up. We'll open up that public hearing in just a few minutes. We'll start with item 7.1, which is adopt resolution number 23-3707, amending and adopting a 5-year water and wastewater rate and fee schedule to increase water and sewer rates and charges effective November 1st, 2023. Mr. Kozlowski.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, this item is to adopt the 5-year water and wastewater fee schedule. Staff has been working with Wilden Financial Services for several months, compiling all the necessary information in order to develop a number of rate options and complete the rate study documents that are available on the city's website. To this date, just to recap, staff has held multiple public meetings and gathered feedback from a number of residents regarding the rate options. After the public meetings, staff worked with Wilden to refine the rate options and present those rate options to council during multiple meetings. During those council meetings, staff received additional feedback and consensus from council regarding option A for water and option A for wastewater, which were both the cost for service models. As previously discussed, tonight's proposed rate increases are necessary in order to maintain and operate approximately 500 miles of water line, 15 booster stations, and complete a number of needed CIP projects across the system. If approved tonight, the proposed rate increases would go into effect on November 1st of this year. With that, I will turn it over to Kevin and Pat with Wilden Financial Services for a brief presentation regarding the proposed rate, options, and fee schedules.
Okay. Thank you, Anthony. Mayor, members of the council, members of staff, and audience. It's with pleasure that I present this evening. I have been on the phone many times with you and been working closely with the staff on the study and as well as council. So this is the sixth time that Wilden's appeared before you. Started in January, and as Anthony said, there was numerous meetings that were held. Public input was received as we worked our way through the different options. I'm just going to recap the study this evening. I'm not going to go over every single number in the slides, but happy to answer any questions at the end of the presentation. And just overall, just wanted to mention that this is all based on cost of service. We use AWWA, American Water Works Association, guidelines and standards for rate studies. So with that being said, I'll get into the presentation.
Pat, it's the one right there.
Oh, this one. You got two clickers here. Okay, so recap of the study, I'm just going to touch on the amount of the capital expenditures. As was mentioned, there's a lot of capital projects that are put into this, but staff has looked at this and what they really need to move forward and maintain the system. We have the rate structure criteria and rates that I'll go over, as well as any state assistance that's available to citizens, and then grants. So overall, between fiscal years 2024 through 2028, and fiscal year begins July 1, you have water system improvements of $33.6 million and sewer system improvements of 31, or really 32 million rounding up. So let's discuss water first. So with this cost of service update, we have a base charge that doesn't go up until fiscal year 2024 and then increases from there. We also have restructured some of the tiers to reflect what council goals and objectives were on conservation. And another high one was revenue sufficiency as we move forward with this study. But conservation was a big factor in looking at all the tiers and the structures. And we based it on city billing data when we looked at the different tier structures. The proposed monthly fixed charges, we have it by meter size, 3/4 inch, 1 inch. The majority is single family. Meters are 3/4 inch in the city of Lake Havasu City. So you see the changes for fixed charges don't go up until 2025. So they stay the same for this year and 24, and they don't go up to 25, and then they increase thereout. So what you're looking at tonight is you're looking at 5 years of rate increases that will be adopted this evening. We then put a chart in for future change in rates with fixed charges and what it would look like by meter and by fiscal year. Option A, the volume rates. This is single family per 100 cubic feet and multifamily for each of the tier structures. And as you can see, we go, the current structure was 0 to 500, now it's 0 to 300. Again, and trying to send the message of conservation to community. We then have our volume rates for commercial and our single family irrigation. Other irrigation for those schools and big, like HOAs or something that have irrigation meters that are separate from their water meter. And then we have our RV parks. Hydrants, again, there's not very many of them. This is mainly used by builders when they come out and start construction and they hook up for the hydrants, and there's a fee for that. So again, these are all the different tier structures that we worked on, looking at each the fiscal years over the next 5 years and the amount of increases per category. Single family, multifamily, commercial, irrigation, single family, other RV parks, and hydrants. So one of the things that we're always asked about is our comparison to neighbors and what Lake Havasu's rates look like as compared. And this is looking at a 3/4 inch meter with 900 cubic feet water used. And as you can see, Lake Havasu City is at the bottom of it. The current one is the lowest, and the one that's proposed is the next to the lowest. So you're still way below what your neighbors are. Same with multifamily, same situation where you have the current and then you have the option A that's still at the lower end of the scale. So we'll talk about sewer now. For a cost of service update, again, we looked at single family and multifamily and condos as only one flat rate assessed because we were trying to bring them to a dwelling unit basis, which they're based on a dwelling unit, not so much on, how much the flow is on the sewer. So on all other classes, we're continuing with the existing base and flow structure, and then with the updates that we did according to cost of service. So again, there's no flow rates on the sewer for a single family. You can see it's at 5214. It stays that way until you get to 2026. It goes to 5267, 5524, and 5636. Again, the current fee includes the 500 cubic feet multi, and now it's 300. Single family on the consumption. On multifamily, you have the base fee at 18.67 and it goes up to 5214. Again, this is trying to get to the cost of service and equality between dwelling units, while we're trying to make them equal on the payment. The commercial is based on flow. Again, we have one commercial rate. I know years ago you had numerous classes, and the reason that we went to just one fee because it becomes very subjective as to how you define what is a bakery, what is a restaurant. If they've got a table in a bakery, does that make them a restaurant? One table, two tables? How many chairs do they have? And there was a whole bunch of factors that went into it where we were saying that we just need to have one fee. The other thing is like a commercial, where a strip mall has lots of different businesses in it and maybe only has one water line coming in and one sewer line. And how do you decide which class it belongs to when they have multiple businesses within the strip mall? On hotels, we've got a base charge per room, and you can see that's going up, and that's $17.87 going to $18.76 on up through 2028. RV parks, same thing. Septic hauler, this is much higher rate because of the fact that the solids in the discharge are much higher, so therefore the cost of service is higher to treat what they dump. Again, this is just looking overall at the change in rates for the sewer for 2024 through 2028 by categories. And again, comparison to neighbors. This is the sewer bill, 700 cubic feet. Comparison to neighbors, option A with 5214. And the current one is 5566. But again, as we're bringing cost of service within the classes, that changed what the single family was paying. On the multifamily, again, you're looking at it being higher at the 5214 because we were low before. And again, the only thing I will say, and sometimes it's like you saw on water, it looks better than sometimes on sewer, but every community is different. Every water system, every sewer system is different. So therefore you can't say, oh, they're exactly like us. No, they're all different. But we know it's important to compare it to your neighbors and you want to see this information. So there's a financial assistance program that the people can inquire about. I guess they can call the manager's office, Anthony, if they want additional information on this. But again, this is to help offset some utility costs for, maybe low income that need assistance with their water payments, sewer payments. And then there's grant programs that are offered through the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona, Water Conservation Grant Fund. There's rebates to resurface. You're seeing a lot of that. I know that I live in the city of Chandler, and they just recently came out and increased their rebate program, so they'll replace gas. You're seeing a lot of communities do rebate programs to try to encourage people to conserve. Instead of penalize them, they want to encourage them to try to cut back on the water usage. And then the United States Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart Grant Fund. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. Before I open up for discussion from council, I'm just going to zoom out for a second because as Ms. Walker indicated, they've been in front of us 6 times already just on this process. And sometimes we lose track of why we're really even talking about this at all. And so what had occurred is I'm going to take us all the way back to Mr. McCulloch and when he was first initially building and developing our community, he created the irrigation and drainage district. This is prior to Lake Havasu City incorporating. When he did that, he was able to do that by putting a sod farm out on the island, and he was able to create this irrigation and drainage district. What that did is allowed for a property tax for all properties within Lake Havasu City to help offset the water expenses. And so when the city or the voters in 1978 voted to incorporate Lake Havasu City, part of that vote, the IDD was set to expire because the IDD acted as the quasi-government, if you will, prior to incorporation. However, at that time, the IDD had debt already associated with it, and they could not expire it until the debt was fully paid off. Councils long before us would refinance that debt because, again, it contributed $5.7 million through property tax to our water fund. In 2020, we knew the debt would be expiring because there was no more debt. We'd finally paid off the obligations. And so the city council looked at a variety of different things. We looked at replacing that current IDD or with a different district. However, state law has obviously changed since 1978, and that just wasn't a feasible option. And then we looked at different rate strategies to initially make up the $5.7 million and then also take care of all of the infrastructure that's necessary for our water and wastewater system. Ms. Walker and Mr. Kozlowski talked about a 5-year CIP plan, but we took a 10-year look so we understand exactly what future needs are going to be for the system when we're able to program them in. This is a system that it's a nonprofit enterprise fund. So really the ratepayers have to pay for the cost to take care of the capital improvements as well as the operating and maintenance of it. And they use all of these calculations to come up with this. We did this initially in 2020. And when we did that, we adopted it unanimously by the council at that time. And it really had a strong impact on multifamily homes. So we came back and we made some adjustments to give multifamily dwellings the opportunity to adjust. And we adopted those rates in October of 21. We're going to wait 1 year of seasonality because we have a lot of seasonality in Lake Havasu City with our winter visitors as well as our summer visitors, homeowners that only reside in their home in the winter or summer, vice versa. And so we took that seasonality and then we engaged Wildan again in December of 2022 to go through this process that we're at now. So we've had 6 public hearings, multiple outreach to get feedback from citizens. We actually had 32 of 36 people representing multifamily associations at our first public outreach back in March. And so we've been able to get a lot of feedback through that. So the details that Ms. Walker just went through today are after lots of conversation that we've had from the council perspective and giving direction that we want cost of delivery of service. So what does it cost to deliver that service to those different entities? And then water conservation being another component of that. And that's where all of these pieces come together. I just thought I would zoom out for a second just to get perspective of why we're talking about it and why this even is a thing. And those are some of the background information. And I'll zoom back into focus to where Ms. Walker just took us through the numbers based on Proposal A on water and Proposal A on sewer based on the conversation that council had at our last hearing on this item. With that, I'll open up to my colleagues on council for questions, comments, or thoughts. Yeah, Councilmember Campbell.
Hello, and thank you for coming back again. I think I'm getting to know you on a one-to-one basis. I have been 3 years of this, and again, great debates, great conversations for sure. I know a lot about cost of services, and you do too. And I have still a hard time believing if you have a unit with 200 people in it and you only get one bill to service, the cost of service is going to be less. If you have to send out one bill to get $20,000 versus 200 bills to get $50. The cost of service has always been less in my businesses. Number two, when you're running hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of yards of sewer or feet of sewer pipe that you have to maintain, the cost of service is more. You have to maintain that. To get to multifamily, you hook up to one sewer pipe and you immediately get 200 bills. For the same price. Another thing on the water, we turned around and at least before we had some residential gets 300 cubic for free. Immediately, they're charging $1.47 per unit. I still, as a developer and a business mind, have a very hard time believing that multifamily costs more than, let's say, a hotel room and or miles of residential homes that we have to maintain. So again, you have your data, I have mine. And so again, I'm disappointed with the direction of this, I've been asking for real cost of services per each individual multifamily versus apartment versus condo. The other thing that I see, it seems like hotel rooms are getting a great deal. So I put on my hat and said, realistically, you have hotel rooms at $18.76, you have residentials at $52.14 on sewer, and you have multifamilies at $52.14, commercial at $51, and hotel rooms are only at $18.76. Their flow rates are even less than any other commercial. So again, I'm just not happy because over the 3 years, I've heard quite a few things. I've heard 32 plus HOAs say this was not fair and that it's going to be detriment to us the way you're doing it. From an HOA that has a 3-bedroom condo and an HOA that has a 1-bedroom condo, how are they going to manage these utility rates within their bylaws? It's going to be difficult. Another thing I've heard is, when are the tourists going to have to take on some of the battles of all this infrastructure that they are using on a regular basis? These are the things I've heard for 3 years. And now I'm sitting in front of me looking at a report that says we're not only going to charge, we're going to even charge multifamily and apartments more than the residential at this point. So it all just breaks my heart at the end that I know this is the way this is going to go, but I had to say my last ditch piece of effort here that I don't think this study is fair, but under the census of the city council, this is the direction we're going to go. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ms. Walker, would you like to address the cost of delivery model? You talked a little bit about using the national system for doing that, but maybe just talk more broadly about how that calculation comes to be.
And I also have Kevin Burnett on the phone, just I didn't mention that before, that is, we'll be happy to expand on it if he needs to on the cost of service. But American Water Works Association has what they call Manual 1 and Manual 6, which are guidelines for cost of service and how you divide it up, whether it's speed, production, distribution, the maintenance of the line. Administration is a part of it, but it's a small part of it overall. But we use those guidelines in looking what the cost is, and we break it down by classification. And based on that information, and based on the usage, the flows of those different classifications, we can determine what the cost of service is for each one of those classifications. And I know, council member, we probably have to agree to disagree on that. But, again, based on our expertise and the number of studies we've done, we feel that this is a good representation of cost of service. Kevin, did you want to add anything?
The only thing I would add is on the water side, and we've discussed this before, you're looking at the peaking factor. So what's the average use for that customer class versus what is their peak water usage? And that's how the system has to be sized. It has to be sized to meet that peak day demand, that peak month demand, which doesn't happen all the time. And that's a very expensive way to run a system. So the customer classes that are applying that peak demand to the system bear a larger burden of the cost of upsizing the system to meet that peak day demand. And then on the sewer side, as we've discussed before too, it's everything that Pat said, but it also includes the strength factors. So how much BOD, how much TSS is each customer class contributing to the system? And the higher the discharge strength, the more costly it is for the city to provide service to those customers.
Yeah, thank you. All right, are there other questions or comments? Councilmember Lynn?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Maybe I just need an explanation. Why would the cost of service be different in a multifamily condo than in the hotel rooms? Like, where is the difference between a 1-unit condo and a hotel room? And then if the hotels also have other entities, some of them within them, like restaurants, and that the condos don't have that. So that rate is still stays at $18, where I believe our commercial ones are like 3 times higher than that. So I think I'm just really confused at how, if we're talking about being fair, how that's fair.
Okay, again, Mayor, Council Member, again, it's based on, like Kevin said, not only the peak factor, but the actual flow rates that we have and the information that we have based on the hotel motels and multifamily condo. It's strictly based on what they use and the peaking factor that they have to have. And on the sewer side, again, he was right. I forgot to mention about the strength factors that comes into it. But Kevin, anything else on the hotel motel that I missed?
No, I would agree with everything you say and just say that the data we used was specific to Lake Havasu City. So AWWA provides guidelines on how to use the data, but the data itself came directly from the city's billing system. So this was Lake Havasu City specific data.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor.
Councilmember Campbell?
I agree with the commercial. I'm kind of worried about too, because you have a commercial account, it's $51 and they're charging $10.96 for flow rate, but a hotel room's $18. That's substantially less with a flow rate of $9.93. And I too am having a hard time believing that just because of flow rate or usage time that a hotel with a commercial bar, restaurant, maybe retail functions, public bathrooms, connected to a beach, public would have less than, I'm going to say, one restaurant or a commercial entity. So I still have concerns. That's where we're at, and I got to stick with what I believe in, I suppose.
Yeah. Councilmember Dolan?
Just kind of breaking the math down on the hotels. We also got to remember that is with flow rate. So I would imagine some of the hotels would probably want to be at the flat $52 per, because 1787 basically gives you to max out on that is 3.6. So 365 cubic feet. Anything over that, they're going to be paying more than a single family or multifamily. So, I think the average, like my parents, two people living in a house, they probably use, I think, 400 or 500. So 2 people, 3 people, 4 people in a hotel room, I think the usage is going to be, you run a hotel. So, if it sounds like it's me, I'd want it to be locked into the amount anyway. So I don't think it's fair to say it's good for hotels. To me, it looks a little rough on hotels, same thing too. I think the commercial side is a little bit more uncomfortable than what I'd like to do, but being that it's cost of service, somebody's going to have to pay for it. And if we cut the commercial size, we're going to have to raise the residential. So, like I said, overall, we have kept rates where I think as low as they could possibly be. Keep that in mind. We have to pay for infrastructure. This is a nonprofit water company, so we at least have to cover our bills. And I know we have I've gotten some emails too about seasonal visitors. Well, this also helps the locals more than anything, because the seasonal visitors have to pay as if they have a house here all year, which is what they do. So any changes we do in that area, like I said, it's not profit we're pocketing. It's money that goes back into the system for infrastructure. So those are some points I think I would love to see rates stay the same and drop some of these, but in the end, we have to pay for expenses and keep the infrastructure up and running. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your comments, Councilmember Dolan. Just as a reminder on this hotel topic, last presentation that was given by Wildan, 91% of the hotels would be receiving an increase under this new rate strategy compared to the other entities. I don't have those off the top of my head, but I did look at an analysis just because I figured that people want to transfer costs over to visitors or visitation to kind of share that expense when it comes to all sorts of different things. So I asked for an analysis of an approximately 100-unit hotel with real bills, because right now we're looking at numbers on what the base charge is plus the flow rate, which might have some discrepancies, but what's the real bill look like? And so 2 hearings ago, when Wildan was here, we actually had sample bills as well for a variety of different multifamily, single family, commercial restaurants and the like. But just on a approximately 100-unit condo complex or multifamily complex in town, based on real numbers, and approximately 100-room hotel, again in town, the rates for, because of the use and the flow on it, the rates for the hotel are more than double what it is for the multifamily. And that's based on real usage on real approximately 100-room hotel here in a 100-room condo complex. So, and that's per month. So that's a per monthly charge. And I took a look at the different areas just so that we could have perspective. So once you see the numbers there, but once the calculations actually come in, where else could it be? I then also heard conversations from citizens and also here on the dais when we've had these conversations over the last several public hearings about short-term rentals and about them paying a different rate or a different category. As the council knows, state law doesn't allow for that. So we only are allowed to do what we can with short-term rentals based on what state law allows. That doesn't allow for that. And, cost of delivery service model based on what Ms. Walker had mentioned earlier for hotels, we're able to calculate that. We know that based on industry standards and what others are using, plus the data that our own data is what they plugged into those variables. But when it comes to short-term rentals, that's a whole nother component. And short-term rentals exceeds the number of hotel rooms we have in the market. So currently today, we have 1,225 registered vacation rentals through our process on the ordinance that went into effect on March 1st that we went into play. That's still not all of them. There's still a few that need to get go through the process, and there's some that are not in compliance, I'm sure. Just to give some additional perspective to that hotel conversation or tourism paying for the cost of these things. Hopefully that's a little bit helpful. Are there any other comments or questions from members of council?
Mayor, I just have a question for you.
Yes.
Why do you suppose that we took away, like where it says residential? I remember with the multifamily, at least we gave them a discount. Like it says, the residentials get 300. And I remember the calculations, if I remember, correctly, was if there was 200 units, they got 200 times 300 cubic for free, zero. But this time we're hitting them from the get-go with the $1.47. Do you see what I'm saying? And I don't understand why we didn't even give them that credit. I mean, we're charging them extra for meter sizes. We're charging them extra, full price for single family. We're charging them, single family gets even a discount of the first 300. And each unit used to get at least a discount, I believe, of like 150 or something. But now we don't even do that.
Yeah, so we're on page, the first page of the resolution.
Yeah.
Under multifamily, it shows the usage by cubic feet of 0 to 700 for multifamily would be charged at a rate of $1.47 per 100 cubic feet. Residential from 0 to 300 cubic feet would have no charge. Their charge when it starts till 301 feet. Was that Ms. Walker? Can you answer that question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Again, when we look at the rates for the single family versus multifamily, the domestic and irrigation use within a single family there's no separation there unless they so happen to have gotten an irrigation meter, where most multifamilies do have the irrigation meter. So it's kind of factored into the cost associated with it, but the usage too between the domestic and the irrigation.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Vice Mayor Lane?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. As has been said, we've been working on this for 3 years. We've had lots and lots and lots of public comment. For those of you who've been following the whole time, what I have to say is pretty much what you heard me say from the get-go. One, this is an enterprise fund. It's a nonprofit system. We don't make money off of this system. The only thing we're charging is what it costs for us to maintain and ensure that when you turn that faucet on in your house, good, clean water that you can drink and not get sick comes out of that faucet. And when you push the handle down in your restroom or you're taking a shower, all that bad water goes away and it gets treated and then it gets put back into the aquifers or used as effluent in our parks. So what we had to do is figure out what is the cost? What is it going to cost us over the next 10 years in order to maintain this system and make sure that it is fair to everybody and that the water is flowing and the sewer is going away, and then work backwards from there. What is it going to cost? You all read the paper. You all watch the news. We all live here in town and pay these same rates. You don't have to look very far to see what happens when a municipality does not maintain their system. Right here within where a crow flies, you can hear about water systems where people are on bottled water because they didn't maintain their system, or sewer systems that are failing because they're not maintaining those systems. We have to maintain those systems. That's what you're telling us that needs to be done.
None of us up here are professionals when it comes to these types of systems. We get the understanding. We understand just like you all do. We hire a professional consulting company that uses national standards. They break it down so that we can all understand exactly what we're getting at. And we want to make sure that it's fair and equitable to everybody across the board. To me, what we have come up with is fair and equitable. Some people don't agree with that. One thing that I have heard from most people is, yes, they understand the fact that we need these dollars to maintain these systems and to pay off our debt. They just don't want to be the one to pay for it. They want somebody else to have to pay for it. So what we have done is try to make it where we believe that it's fair and equitable to everybody across the board, with an emphasis on conservation. Conservation is really important. The more water you use, the more money you're going to pay. Hotels use a whole lot of money. They're going to be paying a whole lot more money than a single family home. When you have, we talked about dwelling units. When you have two people that live in a house, they put as much into that sewer system as two people that are living in a condo. It doesn't matter the type of dwelling. It's the amount of people and the type of usage that is going into the system, so that water has to be treated, and then the treated water has to be disposed of somehow. What is the cost to do that? When it comes to sewer, we also have debt service. When you look at the cost for our water, we're at the very bottom. When you look at all of our comparables, we're way down there. We don't charge a whole lot for water. We charge more for our sewer, but we also have debt service on our sewer. About half of what you're paying on your sewer bill is debt service. And if you take out that half of debt service, that puts us back down to the bottom for sewer as well. And it's very important that we maintain these systems. So it is the cost of the service to provide to everybody across the board. Now, we've received, I'm sure everyone here has, emails from people saying, well, I live in this type of a home and I'm on a fixed income. Well, I can tell you everybody my age is on a fixed income. Some have a little more, some have a little bit less, but most of us are retired and we're on a fixed income. That's the way it is. And whether you're living in a condo or you're living in a house, you're both on fixed incomes. And for the last several years, you've seen the condos only have to pay $14, where the people living in the house have been paying roughly $50. Is that fair? Is it fair for the people that are living in the homes to subsidize the people living in the condos? I don't think so. And I think this makes it fair and equitable as we move forward. So I thank you for all the work that you put into this over the last 3 years. I do think it's fair and equitable, and it is spreading that cost to everybody. The commercial, commercial restaurant is going to use more water than a clothing store, but they're going to pay more because they're using more water. That's the way the system is being built. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor Lane. Are there any other comments before we open the public hearing? Yeah, Councilmember Moses.
No, I won't, get up on my soapbox and say a bunch of stuff that's already been said. I just had one question for you. Because we did put such an emphasis on water conservation. When and I'm sure other cities around Arizona or all over the country actually are probably doing the same thing. Have they experienced the customers using so much less water that they're actually not collecting enough revenues to maintain their systems? Have you seen anything like that? Is there any data to speak to? And how worried are you about, scale of 1 to 10, how worried are you that our residents are going to do such a good job of not using the water that we won't collect enough revenue to maintain that system that David was talking about?
Okay, Mayor, Councilmember Moses. Yes, I'm going to refer to something, it's an economic term called elasticity, and you calculate that into your rates that you're going to lose X amount of consumption. And I think if I'm right, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, it was around 3% that we look at. Now, it could be more, could be less, depending on the community and everything, but we do put a factor into that when we look at the rate structure. Because it does happen, people do conserve and start using less. But to be honest, that's exactly the reaction that you want because of all the problems with drought and everything that the state is facing. You're really trying to send that message. And so, there will be some revenue loss, but we've tried to factor that into our calculations.
Okay. Thank you. And then my other questions were actually for Anthony, so I can wait till later. Or Anthony, for the LIHEAP program and the grants for turf replacement and swamp cooler replacement, all that, are we ready, as from a city standpoint, are we ready to help our residents navigate those state programs? And so on November 1st, if these rates go into effect, are we ready to start helping our residents start on some of these processes? Or and how long do those processes take to come to fruition?
Mm-hmm. Mayor, Councilmember Moses, at this point in time, we are still in the grant submittal stage with WIFA and a number of these grant applications. We do have a water conservation manager on staff now who will be part of that process in developing what that looks like for our residents as we move forward with a rebate program for turf and other aspects, whether that be toilets, meters, things like that for irrigation. As well as the grants through the Bureau of Reclamation, which we haven't been awarded, but we're applying for audits for commercial businesses to have our water conservation manager go out and interact with those individuals and do a overall audit on their business as far as where can they conserve, where can they better conserve as it pertains to whether that be swamp coolers, and how can we better assist in providing some of that funding to reduce their overall consumptive use.
Any guess on time frame on when we'd get notices from those grants? I'm interested in this because I'd like to know when would be an appropriate time to start our rates, and if we do in fact go option A kind of deal.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Moses, at this point in time, I can't give a definitive date. However, we do have a upcoming meeting with the WIFA board to determine, future approval of the conservation program grant. However, at this point, it's very preliminary, and to provide any determination on if funding would be approved it's too soon at this point. We are hopeful. We have a very good application that we've submitted, and we hope that WIFA will award those funds.
And when is that WIFA meeting again?
Mr. Mayor,
Sorry.
Councilmember Moses.
I know I'm putting you on the spot with a lot of so.
That information I don't have at this point in time, but I can get you that information.
Okay.
Yeah, Councilmember Moses, and for Anthony, the financial assistance program through the LIHEAP program, that's available today. That's a program through the Department of Economic Security?
Yes, they can reach out to through our billing department, and if they do qualify, they can be directed to that program right now.
And Councilmember Moses, a lot of the funding is coming through the infrastructure bill, and they are needing to spend that money fairly quickly. So there is incentives for that. And as you know, we've had several items in front of council in the last several meetings to give approval to staff to be able to apply for those.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we open the public hearing? All right. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Again, please just make your way to the podium. State your name for the record.
My name is Michelle Reichenbaum. My question is for them.
Please.
How is the sewer just a flat rate, or is there, if you use more sewage, then you're going to get charged more?
Yeah, for single family and multifamily homes, it's just one rate. So in the new proposed structure. Okay. So currently it's a base rate plus a flow, but going forward on the multifamily.
Base rate plus the flow.
That's what it currently is. But if adopted tonight, it would just be the base rate. There would be no additional charges.
Okay, and then what about for commercial and or hotels and?
Yeah, so there's a base rate plus an additional rate based on the flow, the amount that is used.
And how is that measured?
It's measured through the cost of delivery model that Ms. Walker went over several times this evening, and it's identified in the proposed ordinance.
So if they use
based
more
on-
water, then they get charged more for sewage?
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. Yeah.
My name's David Seifert. You know, with the building that's going on, I worked in a big city. And when they ran into this problem, they put impact fees on everything built. So when you hooked up to that sewer, you paid like $5,000. Some places were up to $10,000 on a building permit. This was for the impact to lessen the cost on everyone else. I think that's a very viable thing we should probably look at with the way you're trying to overbuild the city and turn it in from the $50,000 that McCulloch planned to the $100,000 you want to make it. So when you start getting $10,000 from a house permit for the impact to the water and sewer, that lessens ours that have been here for 50 plus years, paying taxes every year, even though you're not here all the time. So I think that might be an option to look at before you go passing a vote on anything right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And just to give you some background information, every single family parcel currently pays a $2,000 hookup fee. Those of us that have lived here a long time, we all paid that when a sewer connected up to our property. All vacant land still has to do that, and then commercial lands pay a little bit more when it comes to that. So everyone is paying a hookup fee that is a large number when they first hook up to our sewer system. And that was part of the original plan. The current build out or building of Lake Havasu City is dictated by the general plan that's adopted by the voters. So we're just fulfilling the plan that the voters have developed, and we're in a role to plan. We're not looking to expand to 100,000 as you asserted earlier.
So we all voted on changing this city to 100,000 people?
That's not specifically. The general plan was adopted in 2016 by a vote of the people, yes.
Yeah. I was here.
Yeah. Yeah, please just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record.
All right, my name is Bob Smith, and to ask you a question there, you said it was $2,000 hookup fee. What was that, 20 years ago? Add inflation rate to that 2,000 hookup fee, it should be more like 10,000 now. And you're not doing it. And as far as you went, a family of two in a single family dwelling doesn't use no more water than a condo apartment. Family of two. That's bull. Family of two in a single family residence tries to save water. People in an apartment, they could care less. They're not paying more water bill. They're just taking 10, 15-minute showers where a family of two takes a 2 or 3 minute shower. I pay water. I use about 700 gallons a month of water. I pay $7.20 for that water, about a penny a gallon. Put it down to sewer when you take out 2/3 for the outside use. I'm paying more like 10 or 12 cents a gallon to get rid of that water. You keep talking about homeowners. I do everything I can to conserve water. And yet I pay 3 or 4 times as much sewer bill than people in apartments. Now, how is that fair? I'm not saying raise theirs. I'm saying take individuals into account and lower their bills according to what they actually use. Not some garbage. She says we're not going to raise your rates for 2 months or 2 or 3 years. Well, when you're taking away from 500 gallons and knocking it down to 300 gallons, that's automatically a 40% cost increase. That's automatic rate increase at 40% next month, or in November, I should say. Now, how's that right? You know, she comes out with this line, well, we ain't gonna do it. Nobody said nothing about that. When you take away 200 gallons from 500, that's a 40% cost increase on the same amount of water. I think you ought to figure out some system where the people that do conserve water and do use less water get some credit for it, instead of sticking it to the homeowners. because people will live in apartments. Well, big deal. I live in an apartment, pay fees too. Now I live in a house and I pay more money for the same thing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm curious, a member of the council has stated that you have data that either refutes or supports the information provided by the consultant. Have you shared that data with anybody? Because I haven't seen it. I mean, if you've got some good ideas on how to save money, I'm a taxpayer. I'm all up for you as a council person to provide that information, and let's see where it shakes out. Right? You got it. You developed it. Do me a favor. Get it out there and argue it to conclusion. Either your data's good or theirs is good or whatever, but you've got something. Put it on the table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Tamara Talbot. I live in a condo. And to refute the one guy who says people that live in apartments don't care about water, I have always cared about water. I turn the water off when I soap. I turn it back on. So you can't blanketly say people in condos or apartments don't conserve water, because we do. It's people are people and they're going to do what they want. Regarding this study, everybody seems to say that it's a cost of service, and that's what we're trying to provide. And I understand that the rates have to go up and everything, but why is it that all of a sudden for multifamily, it's not cost of service, it's dwelling rate? So it changes. Are our sewer lines smaller or bigger than the rest of the ones in the city? Are they less dense, so that, you know, if you've got 4 people in a condo or 2 people in a condo, they need, you know, stronger pipes? I don't think so. The sewer, I believe sewer lines are all the same size, so all around the community. And then I just wonder, by putting the 5214 per unit for a condo, if you have a 4-person or a 4-unit a fourplex there, and in those 4 units, there's only 6 people, right? Because there's a couple of them just have 1 person or whatever. That fourplex is going to be paying the 208 and some change just for sewer, when you've got single family houses in town that have more than 2, 4, 6, 8 people in them, and they only have to pay the 5214. There's a discrepancy there. And also, sometimes I wonder, and I know, Mr. Lane, you've mentioned about it, cost of service and all of that. But you know, in trying to up it for the dwelling rate, is it kind of a punishing the multifamily because they paid less for the last 10 years? You know, I don't know. I'm just curious about that. But and the strength flow rate, that was mentioned about a condo needing a bigger strength flow rate, or a commercial business. But if the sewer lines are all the same, how do you adjust for that? So those are my questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Talbot. So the sewer rates will have no flow on this current option that's in front of council right now. You would just pay the 52 and change per unit. You talk about cost of delivery of service. Absolutely, that's how the model's done. But then you have to divide it by something. So you would divide it, a multifamily situation, by the dwelling unit. Otherwise, this property has this bill, and then how is it then divided? So it's divided by dwelling unit to get to the calculation that Ms. Walker went over with cost of delivery.
But it's still 1 meter, 1 water line, 1 wastewater line. So the cost of service, you know, a multifamily may have a larger line coming in. I don't know if they have larger lines going out, you know, and if the water is based on the size of the line coming in, then maybe basing the wastewater rate on the size of the line going out versus how many dwellings are there.
No, I appreciate
Mayor.
that. Thank you, Ms. Talbot. Yeah, Vice Mayor Lane, if you want to respond as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I just wanted to ratify, she asked if my comments were about punishing people in multifamily. Absolutely not. It's about bringing the people that are in the multifamily units up to and paying the same as the people that are in the single family residences, not pay more, just paying the same. And I can give you a prime example. On my street where I live, there's 4 houses in a row. Out of those 4 houses right now, there's 2 people. But we're still paying, if you take all 4 of those dwelling units, the $208 is what you're talking about. So it has to be broken down by dwelling unit, and it's not punishing anybody. It's just a matter of making sure everybody is paying the same for that cost of service. No punishment whatsoever.
Mayor, can I get a correction here? Can we go to page 24, please? Can everybody go to page 24? Because I keep hearing this, and on page 24, it says future year changes in rate. Multifamilies was $18.67, and they had a flow rate of $6.26, just like the hotel rooms we were talking about. So I'm sitting up here constantly hearing how we gave all the multifamilies this great deal, but we didn't, because you can see right there, they were paying $18.67, plus they had a flow rate on top of that. Either it was sewer flow or it was water flow. On top of that, they also were charged on the IDD the half-acre parcel rate per unit, per dwelling, like a whole residential only paid the minimum half rate for the IDD. So they paid more in their sales tax. They paid $18.67 per unit, and they paid $6.26 for flow. So I don't know how the math is here. I just wanted to put that up there. There's the data for you guys to look at. This is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, Ms. Talbot, did you have any additional feedback?
I did, and that's the whole thing, is it was a flow rate. And thank you for your response, Mr. Lane. I appreciate that. And we have been paying, it's not like we're not paying, we have been. It's just that it seems unfair that you charge it, when we have, it just.
Kelly, appreciate you. Love you. Hi, Cindy, Mayor, Council. I had a couple of odd questions because I kept hearing, and I know. First question is, you said that the general plan was voted on, but I don't remember it in a voter's pamphlet, and you said it was in 2016. It was actually in a voter's pamphlet. When will we be having the next general plan voted on, and will that happen soon?
Yes, so statutorily from the federal government, it's required every 10 years. And so we'll be starting that process in the next year or so. It takes about 18 months total, and that will come up in 2026 for a vote of the people again.
Okay, and then I heard, I'm sorry, but this was just a really weird thought and probably not applicable, but I am going to ask a really odd question. I'm sorry. I heard that Mr. Dolan say something about the hotel costs, and it is less for people who own a hotel or run a hotel. The sewer bill is going to, or the water bill is going to be less, and you manage a hotel. Does your vote, is it going to be appropriate for that? It is what I was just curious. I'm sorry. And
sure.
I just didn't know.
So you're questioning my integrity is what your question is?
I'm not trying to question your integrity that way. I know it was an inappropriate question, or not an inappropriate question, but it was just odd when I heard him say that it was going to benefit hotels, and you are the manager of the largest hotel in the city, or one of the largest hotels in the city. So it's not questioning your integrity, but I am questioning whether, I mean, Ms. Campbell recused herself the last time something came up that was affecting concrete or whatever it was that she had to recuse herself from. So I did not know if you needed to do that based on the fact.
Sure. Yeah, so
That's all.
you were able to hold on to Councilmember Dolan's comments pretty tightly, but you didn't hold on to my comment, which said 91% of the hotels are getting an increase based on the action that's in front of us today. That was led at the last public hearing that we had. All hotels are getting an increase on their base charge based on this strategy. You might also have missed when I talked about the sample that I had pulled, just so that we understand hotels are paying more than double what a multifamily is. I don't have any ownership stake in a resort. I'm an employee of a resort. My decision does not reflect on this, and I have no financial gain whatsoever when it comes to the outcome of this. But I appreciate the question. Did you have any other comments?
No, I was just, like I said, it was just really, I didn't know the appropriateness of it. And if I don't ask, then I'm going to be like everybody else and just assuming that, the mayor's taking advantage of his role. So, but unless you ask, you don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to council for any additional discussion or possible motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Vice Mayor Lane?
After 3 years, I move to adopt resolution number 23-3707, amending and adopting a 5-year water and wastewater rate and fee schedule effective November 1st, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Lane and a second from Councilmember Dolan. I just want to make the point that we, in the motion, it's for a 5-year rate increase. So this will be planned out 5 years, which is in the council resolution that is in front of us. But I just wanted to make that clear that it's a 5-year rate increase. Any additional comments before we vote? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 5-2.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Walker and Mr. Burnett, for all of your work on this. Thank you, Mr. Kozlowski, and the rest of the city team that has been a part of this long 3-year process. Moving on to item 7.2 is award agreement for professional services for a feasibility study for the second island bridge evacuation route to Michael Baker International, Inc. Mr. Frosley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As I'm sure you're all aware, our state representative, Leo Biosucci, was able to secure funds through the state budget in the amount of $200,000 last year to fund a feasibility and impact study for a second access to our island and along with an evacuation option. Back in December 13th, 2022, the council adopted an ordinance approving an IGA with ADOT to simply transfer those funds to the city so we could move forward with that study. The city then, the city then commenced with a formal selection process to select a firm to actually do the work. We were very fortunate in that we had two very highly qualified firms participate in the process, in Michael Baker International and Kimley Horn. In-person interviews were then held with each firm, and they were conducted back in June. We made a selection shortly after that, with Michael Baker International being the clear winner. So that brings us to tonight's action. We have negotiated a scope of work with Michael Baker International to deliver the feasibility and impact study. A portion of the Michael Baker team is here with us tonight. We have a few slides to go through to kind of demonstrate what the work will entail and also what will be included in the final report. In the end, we're really seeking council approval for the professional service agreement so we can move forward with this very important project. Once we're done with the presentation, we're very happy to answer any questions. So at this point, I think I'd just like to go ahead and turn it over to Tony Cabrera with Michael Baker, who will go ahead and introduce his team and take us through the slides.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Mr. Mayor, members of council, city staff. My name is Tony Cabrera. I'm basically the manager of operations for Arizona. I'm here with two additional team members that were also present during the presentation. Jim Martin, our project manager, and Kevin Kugler, our director of transportation planning. We're here for three major reasons, as Greg explained. First, I'd like to point out our sincere appreciation for being selected and placing your trust in our firm and our team, which we have a number of sub-consultants that are also part of that team. And on a personal note, I love being back in Lake Havasu. I was here as a younger individual, dredging the channel. I'm not sure if it was the first one or the second one, but it was quite an experience on the first go around. So I enjoyed that, and I always love coming back to this fine city. The second is Jim will be going over a high-level discussion of the scope of work that we are planning to execute. And then, of course, thirdly, we are here to, am I supposed to be advancing this myself? Sorry, Greg. So that's kind of how we developed our initial scope of work. These were some key goals that when we had discussions with city staff, felt these were extremely important goals to achieve. And then we're here to answer your questions as well. If we can do one more slide. Thanks, Greg. So this is our team makeup. Like I mentioned, we have a considerable amount of sub-consultants that lend those specific expertise, subject matter experts that will address the scope elements that we're going to be developing. So with that, I think I'd like to introduce Jim to go over details.
Thank you, Tony. Mayor and council, we're really happy to be here, audience as well. I know this second bridge has been talked about for a long time. I've been actually tracking it since 2004. And back when Kevin and Bob and Greg were working on it. You were part of that, right? Yeah. But it's an exciting opportunity for the city to see a possible new bridge. But again, I think Representative Biasucci approached it correctly and recommended that we do a feasibility study first. I mean, to update the costs, the last cost estimate for the bridge, I think, was done by Trans-Systems in 2004, I believe. And there haven't been a lot more studies as far as cost. This first slide is a depiction of what the city came up with in 2004 as far as the alignment and the number of lanes. Sorry. This is what they had come up with for the horizontal alignment of the connection and number of lanes needed. And we have looked at planning level cost analyses, and we think we're kind of in a ballpark that this could be built for what's available through the state legislature revenues that are coming in. But we need to confirm that through additional studies. Another thing that really hasn't been looked at with ADOT is the connection and where that signal is going to be coming off State Route 95. That's going to be one of our earliest tasks, is to work with ADOT to confirm that works with all the other signals. So anyway, building on what Tony was talking about, the goals that we saw that needed to be identified in the study. And this is what we built into the scope of work. We've got a public and stakeholder support element, which Kevin Kugler's going to address for a moment. Alternative alignments for the bridge and the architectural or contextual concept of what kind of bridge is it going to be. Is it's going to be a big signature structure? We'll go through some type of alternative selection on what's best and what the city and the stakeholders want for that. Planning level cost models, we'll start that immediately. And I should back up. It never says it in this presentation, but it does say it in the scope of work. We're intending to try and get the majority of this feasibility study completed within 6 months, which kind of aligns with the next legislative funding and budgeting sessions. Just in case we can come up with potential for additional funding beyond what we have now. And then a schedule of construction and constraints and what we call an funding and implementation plan that shows that the project's financially feasible and can be constructed in a certain amount of time. But really improving traffic operations, I just wanted to touch on this a minute. What happens if you build a second bridge has a major effect on what's happening with the traffic coming onto the London Bridge. And it's been a big issue with the Lake Havasu City NPO and the Regional Transportation Safety Plan, that those intersections could need significant improvement to maintain the level of service that we consider adequate. And at certain times right now, that level of service is totally inadequate. But we believe, and Kittleson is on our team who does traffic modeling, and they did the Lake Havasu long-range transportation plan. We believe that the diversion in traffic may make those 5 intersections level of service adequate without having to invest more money on it. That's one thing we'll be looking at as well. So, Kevin, this is probably the most important part that you want to hear is how are we going to deal with developing this and gaining consensus?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just to put a bow on the discussion here, and we're more than happy to take your questions and have comments. This does, the feasibility study stage of the process does allow the opportunity to integrate a level of stakeholder and public engagement. And we plan on doing so quite simply in 2 different rounds, if you will, of this process, initially up front. In the process, once we do our diligence in the data collection and get up to speed on the various aspects of the study that we need to get up to speed on, we will then, each round will have the same series of events. So there'll be a council presentation, where in the round 1, we'll come back to you we'll present to you some of the facts that we've gained and come to you to understand issues, concerns, and objectives. Then the next stop on the tour in round 1 is intended to be with a group of stakeholders, interested property owners in proximity to the project in particular, where we'll convene a series of 2 to 3 meetings with stakeholders and property owners to also discuss the project itself, some of the existing conditions, challenges, and opportunities, and understand their issues, concerns, and objectives. And then we'll also have a community open house meeting as well. That most likely we will do in person, but we do have a virtual option if we so choose. So then we'll go through the process, as Jim kind of lightly described, and going through an alternatives analysis, and then we will come back in round 2 of that stakeholder and public engagement and vet those alternatives at the same 3 stops of the journey. We'll come to council, we'll go to the stakeholders, and then the public as well, the community open house, to talk about the evaluation of the alternatives and the rationale in selecting a preferred alternative to get your input, stakeholder input, and public input, simply put. And I blacked out. I think that was the Yep. So with that, Mayor and Council, I believe we're available for, of course, any questions.
That's our last slide, so
Yeah.
we'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor. We can take any questions you might have.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for the presentation. I know Mr. Martin alluded to it, but the legislative session starts in January, and it's really important to us to first get the dollar figure to make sure that if that's not it, that we have a vehicle or an opportunity. So when you're working through your program work, that's going to be very, very vital to us that we have those numbers in January early. So if you can help us with that, that would be fantastic. As Mr. Frosley mentioned earlier, this is really the efforts of our local delegation. Representative Biasucci and Senator Borelli, with the assistance of Representative Gillette, really made this happen for us. And so we have this item and an item that's going to be subsequent to this item this evening about the second bridge. And it kind of seems awkward that we're doing it in this order, but Mr. Biasucci was able to secure this $200,000 from the state of Arizona, the general fund, to be able to do this planning, to do land planning for the island. We know what the build out can be based on what the lands are out there. Obviously traffic flows and the flows when you get onto the mainland side. Some of the alignment is because that's where the right of way is. That's where we have it. So there's not a lot of flexibility that way. But then Representative Biasucci found a window of opportunity this last budget year or this last legislative session to get funding for it. And so he secured it. Generally, we would have done this in its entirety and then got secured funding, but that's not the way that it ended up working, and we're going to work with it. So we'll just move at rapid pace, and that's why we're here tonight. But are there any questions or comments from members of the council for the presenters or for Mr. Frosley on this item? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? If so, just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. All right, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing on this item, bring it back to council for any additional comments, questions, or motion. Oh, Mr. Knutson?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So a couple of the highlights here to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page as we move forward, right? So how vitally important it is for the city to get those, if I can say it this way, back in the napkin type cost estimates or a budget figure that we can share with the legislature. Session starts in January. That's important. We've talked about the funds afforded to the city through the efforts of Representative Biasucci and our legislative leadership. Could cover the cost, but we also need to include the cost of the road network that's going to connect the bridge, hopefully to 95, right? So bridge, maybe $35 million, maybe another 15, possibly. That number's been thrown out through some maybe not so private conversations anymore, and in terms of what to expect moving forward. So which could be about a $50 million project for the city. So, but a little bit of analysis, a little bit of data gathering will help us with those efforts. And then the importance of the coordination and collaboration, not just with the city on this project, but with ADOT, as you're well aware, right? And all the experience to accomplish this as well, but also with the Arizona State Parks. What are those impacts going to be on our road network? What are the impacts going to be on the channel? What are the impacts going to be on Windsor State Park? And making sure that we have a solid understanding of what that looks like as we go to the next step, which would then be a design process. So I know, Jim.
No, that was very well said. What you're saying is exactly what we've been talking about through all the scoping things. As far as cost, it's so premature to really talk about it, but comparing with other bridges, $50 million would be a healthy number, I think.
I prefer we not spitball numbers. Just have them for us in January. Yeah, okay. That would be good. Yes. Any other comments from members of the council?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilmember Dolan?
Can I make a motion for $50 million?
No.
No?
Second.
Why are you kicking me? All right, I motion to award agreement for professional services for a feasibility study for the Second Island Bridge evacuation route to Michael Baker International Incorporated. I was on the wrong page. And not to exceed $200,000.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan, a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 7.3, which is adopt resolution number 23-3706, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona Department of Transportation to accept funding for the construction of an emergency evacuation bridge. Mr. Frosley.
Yeah, thank you once again, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Once again, Representative Biasucci came through in a big way for Lake Havasu City and was able to secure funds in the state budget in the amount of $35,500,000 for the design and construction of the bridge that we were just discussing. This action is simply the IGA with ADOT to transfer those funds to the local agency, which is the city, to proceed with that project once we move into the design phase and the construction phase. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Frosley. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council for Mr. Frosley? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor.
Yeah, Councilmember Moses.
I move to adopt resolution number 23-3706, approving an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Arizona Department of Transportation to accept funding for the construction of an emergency evacuation bridge.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses and a second from Councilmember Koch. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is 7.4, approve the cooperative purchase of one Pierce Velocity fire engine from Hughes Fire Equipment, Inc. through the Houston-Galveston Area Council contract. Chief Palafis.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. Before you is the approval for a purchase of one Pierce Velocity engine through our Houston-Galveston cooperative agreement. To just give you a little bit of content to this is we've established a 5-year plan that I've explained to you before in previous council, and it was actually in our study. We're going through and staying with that plan. So of refurb, new rig, refurb, new engine. One of the challenges that we are facing is the delivery time. This particular engine is roughly about 41 to 46 months out. We did purchase receive approval in December of 2021 to purchase, it's the same exact engine through the same co-op, but we're also seeing an increase in the price due to inflation. And that, what we did was predict that in our budget. So you can see in this item that we didn't ask for any contingency funds because we properly budgeted or did a great guesstimate in regards to what that inflation is. But the thing is, we are going to go with a prepay, and that's saving us roughly about $207,000. We're locking in this price. One of the challenges that we do have is it's always constantly reevaluating our plan. So during this budget cycle, we're reevaluating our plan for the next cycle to see if this is really working for us. We're very happy with the product of Pierce because we're standardizing our fleet. Most of our rigs are Pierce. It's happy to announce that we did pay off the 5 rigs that we purchased almost 10 years ago. So the thing is, we're making progress. It's just slow. Our refurb is doing really well. We have one currently in with Fire Trucks Unlimited that we'll be getting back hopefully in April. And our engine that we purchased in 2021, we should see in 24 around the same time we get our refurb. So I'm just requesting that we stick with our plan. plan. We're going to reevaluate it during the budget process, but to approve the amount of $1,120,518.61 for a new engine to serve our community, and it's needed to replace, stay on track with our replacement program. Mayor, council members, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Yeah, so this is a budgeted item. So it's a planned item that's in our budget, already been approved through the budget process, and just comes back before us because it's over the threshold of $50,000. But do any members of the council have any questions for Chief Palafis?
Chief, question. With 41 months out, do we pre-order other ones?
Well,
how does that work?
I'm sorry, Mayor, council member, Dolan, the thing is, what we're going to do is reevaluate our plan, and we're going to start looking at the delivery times, and hopefully we get some relief. We keep track of everything that's going on in the market. I make sure I read the fire engineering, and I'm looking at basically towns that the individuals that have ordered rigs are basically not being able to afford them, and maybe I can take advantage of that if it's still the same spec and same brand. So the thing is, I hope you know me, that I'm always constant reanalyzing and looking at our plan to see what we could do fiscally responsible for our community. Another thing that we're looking at, we still have our truck up for sale. The market, it's no one's bidding at it. We lowered the price too. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at refurbing it. If I can save $1 million instead of buying a $2 million truck, that's something I think is very responsible for us. And I think that's something that we're going to look at and bring forward to you. It just, at least we have a plan. And I appreciate the council, the city manager for sticking with a plan to at least replace our fleet, because that's one of the most important things, that our firefighters have safe, reliable equipment to serve this wonderful community. I know that's a long answer, but...
It was about what I expected, but that's fine. Thank you, Chief.
Any other questions or comments for the chief? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? If so, just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, bring it back to council for discussion or possible motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Moses?
I move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 1 to the cooperative purchase agreement with Hughes Fire Equipment, Inc. to renew through November 30th, 2023, and approve a 100% bonded prepayment for the purchase of a 1 Pierce Velocity pumper in the amount of $1,120,518.61.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Moses, a second from Councilmember Dolan. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Item 7.5 is approve the cooperative purchase of a Braun Ability ProMaster ADA low floor van and Ford E-Transit ADA van from Creative Bus Sales. Mr. Cypress.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. It's good to see everybody again. Before we get started on this, I want to kind of give an update where we're at. We're on our 3rd year of our 5-year plan of our launch of public transit. We're wrapping up our Federal Transit Administration triennial today. We wrapped it up today, where it looks like we're doing really well. We'll get the results back on that on Thursday. And updates on our direct service in 1 year. I just want to let everybody know we've done over 30,000 trips. So that's been from September through September. And 30,000 trips is just the number of trips. That's probably another, if we think about people, it's probably 40,000 people we've given rides to. So we know that direct is the fit for the city. I'm here today to talk to you about approving the purchase of 2 vans that we're going to bring into the fleet. And this is through Creative Bus, and one is a Braun Ability ProMaster. And these vans are ADA equipped. So this first Braun ProMaster does have a hydraulic lift on it. And our next vehicle is going to be a first for the city. It's going to be an EV. So we're buying a Ford Transit electric van. And this is from Ford. Everything's under Ford factory warranty, except the Braun lift in the back. So it comes with its own chargers. We've already made arrangements, got estimates on how much to install the charger at our location. And it's a little under $1,000, but they provide the charger for us. The vans, and especially in this heat in the hilly area we have, right now they're rated about 150 miles with the air going and when it's 100 plus degrees outside. So we'll get it probably in about 60 days. They're already in Phoenix, ready to go. And the good part about this, it's a true dynamic charging system that's on these Ford vehicles. It's very similar to the Tesla systems where as soon as you get off the accelerator pedal, it starts charging automatically. So it's almost like it has a built-in transmission brake. The vehicle just starts slowing down automatically. So it keeps its batteries fully charged, probably 80% most of the day until we start using all the air. Having that level 2 charger installed at our facility, we'll be able to plug it in and then charge it overnight and have it to use the next day. Right now, the current vans we're using, we're spending annually about $7,000 plus in fuel. So this would be a good one when we start running it to see comparison electricity versus fuel. Again, it's covered under Ford warranty except for consumables, which is tires and anything rubber products. So pretty much everything is covered through Ford. Batteries and components to charge the van are covered for 8 years or 100,000 miles. So you hear the talk about batteries being replaced in electric vehicles cost thousands and thousands of dollars. That's usually after about 3 or 4 years. Well, these are covered for 8 years. So this is what Ford is trying to do and get that back on the market. So this is new for us. We've actually test driven this, and it drives totally different than a regular transit van, which we have a few of those. So it's definitely something we have to train the drivers how to drive because it's completely different than we've ever had. But the benefits that we can have are we can start doing our part to reduce our carbon footprint and be more proactive on EV vehicles. And previous to this, we did look at getting hybrids, but because of the market right now, it's hard to get a hold of anything. Just like the fire chief was saying, it's still very difficult to get vehicles. So I'm here for you folks if you have any questions or comments.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cypress. Are there any questions or comments from members of the council? Councilmember Berlin?
Patrick, did you say that we're going to have to put in our own charging station?
Yes, it comes with its own charger, and they supply the charging station now.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the size of this monitor, so it's not
that's
very
included
big.
in the,
in the price.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Councilmember Campbell?
Mayor, thank you so much. I like the electric concept because I was doing a little history on this actual grant. And we get to have all these vehicles. Obviously, updating to electric is really feasible, saving money in the long run. Can you give me some information? Because I was just in the Yavapai MPO, and they were talking about the same thing, all the what they've been doing, how many rides, and it was really interesting that I got to see this whole broad spectrum. But the part that I went, uh-oh, and they were too, was they said that this grant funding ends in 2026. Is that true?
No.
No?
No. We have our funding is set. We do a 5-year TIP plan. So
Okay.
every year we update it 5 years out. But we already have grants positioned for certain projects for the next 5 years.
Well, congratulations.
And,
Thank you so much. I
but,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
There is talk about possibly some of the CARES Act going away.
Yeah.
But we're using that first. So we kind of re-strategize we got with Anthony and talked with him on that. And we're kind of using that first because if they're going to pull anything, it'll be the CARES Act funds, which we don't have that much left. We've been using it pretty diligently since 2020.
Well, thank you. You're letting me sleep a little bit better now. Thanks.
Mayor.
Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, thank you. When you say it's under warranty and all that stuff, where do the vehicles go if something goes wrong and they need to be worked on?
Bradley Ford's building an EV. Their dealer's going to be an EV station. So all their technicians are getting trained on EVs. They have to have special equipment there. So Mr. Bradley's putting all that in there. So they are going to be a complete EV dealer.
Do we have anyone on staff that can work on EVs? If
Not
it's the
right
warranty
now.
goes
That
up?
training isn't really out. It's like proprietary because they're so new. So there's really nothing. We're going to bring it in and have vehicle maintenance take a look at it.
Yeah.
But pretty much they can't even do brakes on it because it's all part of the charging system.
Yeah.
So
No, my brother has a very similar vehicle. He never has to change his brakes because he never really ever uses them because of that regeneration. So it's really cool technology, and I commend you for looking at it.
Thank you.
No, I guess that's all my questions.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from members of the council before we open the public hearing? All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to address the city council on this item? If so, just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record.
To Murray again. I sure hope you think about what EV means and electric vehicles and the amount of minerals and everything else that has to go into it. A lot of this stuff comes out of China. That's where all the minerals are coming from. These things are susceptible to a number of different issues. And don't get me wrong, my background's electrical. I know what regeneration is and batteries and all that stuff. But if you read the paper, they still not have mastered the fires that they get with these things. People park them in their house. People park them in parking lots. Fire departments get there, and they're there for hours. It's a great idea, but we're taking materials from countries that, first of all, China's not our best friend, but we're buying things from them. We need to take a look at this whole process. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but there was a semiconductor business that was going to be built in this state. It's fallen apart because they can't get agreements on a lot of different things. They want to bring foreign mechanics in to build a plant instead of our people. There's something wrong with this. We have to keep in the United States of America the things that belong to us and not become dependent upon a third world country like China. Because they've got a lot of friends. They got the Russians and they got everybody else with them. Please give it some hard thought. They have not perfected this technology enough to really say, put me in, coach. It's going to be some time. And when they fail, to your point, it has to be serviced by a qualified technician. This is not just buy your car, put gas in it, and then take it to your local shop to get fixed. This is high-tech stuff. My biggest issue is we're buying it from foreign countries who are not our best friends, and you got to think about it before you support this type of activity. I think it's a great idea, but it's not perfected yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Yeah, please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Yeah, Dave Seifert again. I'm not a big fan of EV. I just don't like it because, for one, they're not paying the taxes on the roads and everything else as far as EV vehicles go. They're baiting everybody, and sooner or later they're going to have to pay their fair share, and then it's going to be a scream. I'm still a dinosaur. Gas works. Gas starts, gas goes, and even though they burn up, it's usually after somebody worked on them. The EVs are, our fire department's going to have to figure out how to put them out too, because they're still working on that. I'm sure our fire department has looked into it, but once that fire starts, you can't put that out. The foams don't work. It's self-igniting. It's self-oxygenated. I'm not a fan of electric. It's got too much too soon. I don't think it's the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council on this item? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. I am going to put the chief on the spot, if I may. Chief Blofis, there's been lots of things thrown out. If you could just, from a fire perspective on these types of vehicles.
Yes, Mayor. We actually have been investigating, and we actually purchased 2 blankets. So we've actually looked at other departments and how they deal with EV type of vehicles and fires, and he's absolutely right. There is a different tactic to that. So we, being proactive, and being a professional department and you having a professional chief, we look at things like that. So it's important that we have blankets. So we already have procedures. We're already working with the tow companies too, because there's actually a special process to actually quarantine these vehicles because of the lifespan of the batteries. So we're well prepared and we'll handle it, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, a few comments that many of you had mentioned regarding the EV vehicles and those types of things. This is just a pilot program to see if, one, it works and if it saves money and if it gets folks around. It's funded through our grant funding with the $5,307. And if it doesn't work, that's why we're not buying all vehicles that way, just this one vehicle, just to run a pilot program, if that's the will of the council this evening. The public hearing is closed. Are there any additional comments or questions from members of the council, or I'll entertain a motion?
Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Campbell?
I just wanted to say I agree with you 100%. I have the same concerns they do out there. It is a pilot program. This is not, yes, it is all of our tax money. We know that. But I'm curious just to see how it goes against another. I'm not a huge fan as well, and I was incredibly concerned about fire as well. But I had heard about the blankets through others, but we'll soon find out. Let's wish us luck.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Councilmember Dolan?
Motion?
Please.
I move to approve and authorize the city manager to execute amendment number 1 to the cooperative purchase agreement with Creative Bus Sales to renew for 1 additional term through April 30th, 2024, revise the pricing schedule, and approve the purchase of a Raw Ability ProMaster ADA low-floor van and Ford E-Transit ADA van in the amount of $257,026.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Dolan and a second from Councilmember Moses. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, we're ready to vote.
Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cypress. Item 8 on our agenda is the call to the public. This is where citizens have an opportunity to address the city council with any item within the jurisdiction of Lake Havasu City. Since the item is not on the agenda, we can't have a two-way conversation, but we can listen intently to whatever your comments may be. Your comments are limited to 3 minutes. As I indicated earlier, there's a light indicator box next to Ms. Williams to guide your time. Green means you have time. Yellow means you have 1 minute remaining, and red means that your 3 minutes is up. You don't have to sign up for Call to the Public, and we didn't have anyone sign up for Call to the Public, but would anyone like to address the city council on Call to the Public? Please just make your way to the podium and state your name for the record.
Joan DeZero. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was unable to attend your last meeting, but I did watch it, and I heard a lot of people talking about their concerns about COVID. And since then, I've had a lot of people approach me. So I just wanted to let you know, 2 years ago, or almost 3 now, that when you guys were faced with this, you didn't know what you were. None of us knew what we were expecting here, and we were being overwhelmed. Our hospitals were being overwhelmed. There wasn't enough. You guys made the best decisions you could at the time, and we appreciate that, because hindsight's always 20/20. You can always think later, oh, we could have done it better, or this or that. You did the best you could with what you had at the time. But however, now we think is a different story. We have information. We have medical information. We know how to deal with this. We know what we're dealing with and the variants that are coming up. We have medical procedures in place. And what we'd like to do is just recommend that if, in fact, we do have COVID, and the reason this is coming up, the federal government keeps talking about possible mandates. We even have some states where the schools have required kids to go back to wearing masks. And if it comes up to be serious, we're hoping that I recommend that you guys just give us the best medical information you can find on what's going on at the particular time, and trust us as adults to make the decisions for ourselves. We know our bodies, we know our families, we know our health, and we'll take the steps that we need to be safe, because we want to keep ourselves safe. This is a great community, and everybody wants to keep each other safe. And we would rely on you to help us with that piece. And we do thank you for what you did before, because the city made it through that in a very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the city council during Call to the Public? Yeah, please just make your way to the podium, state your name for the record. For those of you wondering why you have to do each time, but you can watch our meetings on the website and go directly to the agenda item. And so those that are watching maybe just on an item that's important to them, they can see who's speaking.
Yeah, David Seifert. Housing lights. You know, McCulloch built this city to be a stargazing city. It seems even the brand new houses are putting up lights that are intruding out into the roads and everything else. I would like to see the paper put articles in there to change the lights and cover them up and get non-intrusive lighting on the houses. I know everybody likes white lights, but white light is the worst light for your eyes. It takes over 20 minutes for your eyes to adjust again. All right. Storage units. Let's put a moratorium on storage units. Really, people? If you can't afford to buy a house, put up a garage. Find some other way of enjoying it. I'm getting sick of the storage units. The most delicate environment in the face of the earth is a desert. Side-by-sides. I know it's a big business, but I tell you what, when they're chirping tires around the corner, they should be outlawed. The axle should be freed up on the back of them, and the speed limit in the desert is 25 miles an hour. I would like to see that starting to be enforced a little bit too. McAndrew Park. I didn't like the design of that, a circle inside of a square. That's about the worst use of a space there is, as far as I'm concerned. I think that park is great the way it is. The fact you can do anything, anywhere, anytime, a bathroom would be nice. The low-income housing, I'm not a big fan of everything you're building as far as the density, changing the zoning plans, the height of them. I think low-income housing is a hard thing to deal with. Affordable housing, there's no such thing because you can't build a house to be affordable. Now when the prices of everything are skyrocketed for some odd reason, I don't know how that happened. But I would like to see you concentrate on family housing. I'd rather see families here than a lot of people. And I just got back in town from Milwaukee. And I heard a disturbing thing today. I hope it's not true. And I doubt if it's true. I'm hoping it's not. That there was actually people bust into the city and put into these low-income housing or units. Like I said, it's hearsay. I just got back. I'm not even here a week yet. And I already heard this. I hope this is not happening in Havasu where we're getting people bust in.
Thank you for your comments. Would anyone else like to address the City Council during call to the public? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the call to the public. Item 9 is our current events. Are there any council committee reports? Councilmember Moses?
Yeah, thank you. Just I'll give you a quick update at the PED and mostly pneumatic. Big success happening down there. They're kind of way ahead of schedule as far as projected incomes. The space is being utilized. I mean, I've personally been there 2 or 3 times just in the past couple months for different events being hosted there and stuff like that. So the space is being used. Businesses are doing trainings there. All of their offices are full. They just have, I think, 7 desks available right now, so they're constantly reevaluating. So pneumatics looking really, really strong right now. And then, they've been doing a lot of work with kind of a fun, exciting business that is coming to town. He's got a new one-person. It's a drone. It's drone technology, but it carries a person and it goes on flight paths and stuff like that. It's the Zapata industry. He's calling it his air scooter, and so they're going to be basing their operations out of here, showing off some of their stuff and it's really, really cool technology, and we kind of got a glimpse of a video of that. If anybody wants to look up, it's Zapata air scooter, and really cool for like tours and different things like that. So exciting stuff happening down there.
Excellent. Thank you, Councilmember Moses.
Yeah.
Councilmember Campbell?
Mayor. Well, I got to spend 4 hours at the Nomadic today. It was very nice. We had the Chamber of Commerce had their strategic planning under the new leadership of Thank you, Andrew Heelart. Sorry, I've been in meetings all day. I'm starting to lose it, I guess. But anyhow, we have some really positive things happening. Part of that was the chamber is going into a direction that they're more industry related. So more categorized from the Home Builders Association to food truck advocacy councils. And the other thing, they're going to be far more informative over the next few years by bringing more legislated information and updates directly to like-minded businesses. Instead of getting everybody all in one room, it's hard to network and communicate in that matter. People like to be around like people that have same interest, for instance, construction to medical. So great stuff there. I really enjoyed that opportunity, and I did think the Nomadic was a great location for us to be. Another thing, I was in the the RTAC meeting this morning, and it does look like the McCulloch light on Jamaica is going to happen. It's moving forward. So I don't know if you guys know that, but we had a change of scope and we moved a light to Jamaica and McCulloch. And so we are in process. If you look around the community, you can see infrastructure is everywhere, and the funding for our roads and infrastructure that you, the taxpayers, reached out and funded our community for is really in full force. And also for the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council, I just received the updates over the next 3 years that even happens on Highway 40. So be prepared. Be really patient. And yes, Highway 95 is right around the corner. I think there was a slight setback, and it's only, as you can see, a lot of infrastructure needs to be done before you actually see the mill and fills and the pavement. So once those start going, we're in good shape. And so it's been a really busy month for me, but I'm having a great time, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other council committee reports? All right, future meetings. On Tuesday, October 10th, 2023 at 5:30, we'll have a regular meeting. And then on Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 at 5:30, we'll have a regular meeting. Item 11, future discussion items. Are there any future discussion items for members of the council? Item 12, adjourned. All right, we have a motion to adjourn. Thank you for being here. Be kind, and we'll see you next time.